I've been using Apple's Magic Keyboard and Magic Trackpad in tandem with one another for the last few years as part of my desktop setup with my docked MacBook Pro. The one thing I always felt that these keyboards needed was the ability to use Touch ID without having to open the lid on your laptop, which was an incredibly inconvenient solution if you're like me and you kept your MacBook docked all the time. Well, a few months ago, when Apple released the updated iMacs with a Touch ID keyboard included for the first time, those of us Apple faithful let out a collective cheer until we found out that the only way you could get these keyboards was as part of the new iMac package. Well, a few weeks ago, Apple decided to reverse course and release these Touch ID keyboards for the rest of us who had no intention of buying one of the new iMacs. The question is now, should you buy one or wait a few months and see what Apple has down the road? Let's take a look. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we talk about all things tech, particularly those smaller tech items to help increase your productivity, streamline your workflow, and make your life easier. So as I said earlier, I've been using the Magic Keyboard and Trackpad combo for a number of years as I feel like the trackpad works much better with my workflow, my wrists don't have to work as hard, and I can get certain things done that I just can't get done with a mouse. I do use Touch ID particularly to unlock the Mac, sometimes for purchases and for a few other things, but it's really inconvenient as my MacBook Pro pretty much stays docked to my desk almost exclusively. Yes, I know I can use my Apple Watch to unlock the Mac and do some other things such as approving purchases or approving app downloads for my kids, but I don't always have my Apple Watch on, and sometimes it's on my nightstand upstairs, which is really inconvenient for me. The other reason I decided to upgrade my keyboard was that just as they released this, my wife's keyboard decided to die, and since I had a perfectly functional Magic Keyboard on hand, I felt like this was the perfect time to make the switch. So let's do a quick unboxing to take a look at what comes in the box, and then we'll go over the features and how it compares and contrasts to the current Magic Keyboard lineup. Alright, so we're going to do a quick unboxing of the keyboard. There's probably not a whole lot to it. I believe it's just the keyboard and nothing else, but just so you guys can see, this is what the box looks like. This is the back of the box, and interestingly enough, it seems like with the higher priced products, Apple's giving you like a little pull tab so you don't really have to cut into anything, but with this I'm not seeing any way to do that, so I've got my little X-Acto knife here, so we're gonna take a look at how to open this thing. Okay, and Apple does give you this pull tab so you don't have to destroy the box or anything. And there it is. We're gonna just take it out. And there you can see it. So I was actually wrong about what would come in the box because amazingly enough, Apple has included a Lightning to USB-C cable, and it is, I don't know if you can see this on the video, but it's actually a braided cable, which is pretty nice. It's not your standard Lightning to USB-C cable that you get like with your iPhone. So it's a nice touch. It shows that Apple's kind of going full bore into the whole USB-C ecosystem. So it looks like maybe sometime soon we may see a USB port on one of these things, which would be nice. But as you can see, the keyboard, like I said, it's very similar to the old keyboard. Here you can see them stacked on top of one another, and you can see how similar they are. If you look at the side view, I mean, really they're pretty much identical. If you look at the back view, now this is just a real small thing, but on the newer keyboard, it looks like the rubber feet are a little bit bigger, so I guess maybe you're going to get a little bit more traction. And I don't know, to me it does feel like the Touch ID version feels a slightly bit lighter than the old one, but maybe that's just me. And you can also see, it's very subtle, but on some of the keys, particularly on the edges of the keyboard, they have this rounded shape to them. So Gone are all the square keys around the edges, and it looks like Apple is going for just kind of like a cleaner, more rounded aesthetic overall. So as you can see from the unboxing, there's not a huge amount of differences between these two keyboards. Yes, there's a few other keys such as Spotlight and Siri, but you can actually map those on the current keyboard. Touch ID is really kind of the showstopper here. So a few things to keep in mind if you're planning on purchasing this. Number one is the cost. So there is a fairly steep price increase over the regular Magic Keyboard that doesn't have Touch ID. That one you can currently get for $99. The one that I purchased without the number pad retails for $149, and then the one with the number pad retails for $179. I don't really use number pads in too many situations, so I didn't feel like I wanted to get that one. Plus, it's a longer keyboard, takes up more desk real estate, so I just decided to get the one that I was comfortable with. Yes, the keyboards do cost a lot, especially when you look at other similar offerings. However, they're made extremely well. I love the fact that they're rechargeable with a lightning cable, and the battery life is great. I find that I'm generally only recharging my keyboard every 2 to 3 months or so, depending on how much I'm using it. The keyboards also have a great typing experience. Some people aren't really crazy about the key travel. They prefer mechanical keyboards that have a deeper key travel. For me, I've never found it to be an issue. I can type really fast on it. It's comfortable, and I like the fact that it's very minimal and doesn't take up a lot of room on my desk. Another thing to keep in mind if you are planning on purchasing the Touch ID version is that they will only work on the Apple Silicon-based Macs. And what I mean by that is all of the Macs that have the Apple M1 chip in them, the new Mac Mini, the new iMacs that I mentioned earlier, the MacBook Pro, and the MacBook Air. If you have an Intel-based Mac, the keyboards will work, but Touch ID will not. So in that case, if you have an Intel-based Mac, you might as well stick with the earlier Mac keyboard or just wait until something new comes out. If I had to complain about one thing with these keyboards is the fact that they still don't have backlighting. For me, sometimes I'm in situations where it's dark, maybe it's late at night and I don't want to disturb anybody. And the fact that these keyboards still don't have backlighting on them when you can get much cheaper keyboards that do have backlighting is a pretty sore spot with me, and I'd love to see a version come out sometime in the future that does include backlighting. And the other thing you want to take into consideration is that this does require Big Sur 11.4 or higher. So if you have a Mac maybe that's like 7 or 8 years old that cannot be updated to Big Sur, you're not going to be able to use these. One other thing to note is while these keyboards do come in different colors to match the iMacs that they come with, if you're going to be buying it separate from an iMac, you can only get it in silver and white. Not a huge deal for me, but I'd love to see a space gray version at some point. So in conclusion, if you don't have one of the new Apple Silicon Macs, I would not recommend buying one of these, as the Touch ID functionality is just going to be totally wasted. You might as well either get the $99 version without Touch ID or something even cheaper like this Atechi keyboard. Like I said, you can find cheaper quality keyboards that do have backlighting or other features, but you're not going to find any other keyboards besides Apple's that have the Touch ID integration. So if that's important to you, then I would seriously consider buying one of these. So I'd love to hear in the comments what you guys think. Are you planning on going out and buying one of these? Have you already gotten one? What's your experience like with it? As always, thanks very much for watching this. If you like this content, please remember to subscribe and like this video, as it helps me to grow the channel. I'm planning many more videos in the coming month as we're now entering Apple season, and I'll see you guys next time.